Well, if I'm gonna do a character spotlight during this spooky season, I might as well talk about this character. I mean, kinda makes sense. This is gonna be a quick one because, yeah, the history of this character is kinda weird. Now, if you recall in my GalaxyCon short, I mentioned this character kind of was a jobber, and it's gonna make sense why as I get into the backstory of JackOLantern. Now, despite being associated with heroes and anti-heroes like Spiderman and Venom, his first appearance was actually in Machine Man, issue 19 in 1981. He was shown having a series of bombs and flying around on a disc that he called the Pogo disc. Because yeah, when you hear JackOLantern, you think flying saucer. Touche. By the end of the issue, he's defeated by his own bombs, and he's left hospitalized, though it's pretty tough for the doctor since the suit he's wearing seems to be locked on so they can't get it off. Though either the bomb wasn't that strong enough or the suit is really tough, he wakes up and he immediately starts attacking people again, where he ends up fighting Spider-Man. We eventually find out that his name is actually Jason McIndale. He used to work for the CIA and was a very skilled operative, but was kicked out for psychological problems and later the discovery that he was helping enemy combatants. After he lost his job, his wife left him and took their son, and just getting sick of it, he decided to become a criminal. And because supervillains became all the rage, he decided to take up the identity of JackOLantern. As for why he decided to become a Halloween-themed villain, it's not really clear. But he does it, designing his costume, and using tech he was able to steal in the past. Jason would go on as JackOLantern for some time, fighting Spider-Man, and even a few Spider-Man villains like the Hobgoblin, but after some time, Jason would actually leave the mantle of JackOLantern and, funny enough, become the Hobgoblin. Along with, well, let's say Jason had a very interesting history, but that's a story for another time. After that, we actually had 3 people take up the mantle of JackOLantern. Well, sort of. First, there was Stephen Mark Levin, who first appeared in Captain America issue 396 in 1992, and pretty much just did what Jason did, though they never really explained how he got the gear or why he even took up the mantle, but yeah, he did it. He was just mostly a hired goon who would fight Captain America on occasion, while the other 2 were Daniel Burkhart and Maguire Beck, who were actually connected to Mysterio, with Maguire actually being Quentin Beck's cousin, while Daniel will be the second person to take the Mysterio mantle. But for a period, they actually used the JackOLantern gear, though instead of calling themselves JackOLantern, they call themselves Mad Jack. Again, there's not much I could say about the 2. They just kind of shared an identity for a bit and were just hired guns who would occasionally fight superheroes. There would be an attempt to make JackOLantern a much creepier character though, when Steven was killed off in Civil War, shot by the Punisher, and buried in Sleepy Hollow, where he would actually get possessed by a fragment of Lucifer and become a supernatural force, but it didn't really last too long and he was killed off again. Then there was Steven's brother who took up the mantle for a bit, and just like his brother, actually had more supernatural connections as he sold his soul to gain power, but again, that didn't really last long, though he did have a very interesting design. Last we would see him, it was during the Heroic Age, where he escapes and Steve Rogers assumed that he would continue trying to get revenge for his brother. Now, this is when things get interesting as we meet Jack. Yeah, that's his name. We never find out his full name. Who first appeared in Venom issue 1 in 2011. This was a big deal as this was the first solo series of Flash Thompson's Agent Venom. This guy was a straight up psychopath who had the tendency to kill people, hollow out their heads, and make them into human jack-o'-lanterns. He was obsessed with trying to ruin Flash's life. Really embraced the Halloween theme, acid candy, and even ditching the pogo disc with a jet device that resembled a broomstick, which, fun fact, was actually originally used by the Green Goblin in his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man issue 14. He was also freakishly strong and had a high pain tolerance. In fact, the first time Flash fought him, he took a grenade to the face, and despite his jaw being completely destroyed and his front teeth blown off, he was ready to continue the fight. But he retreated and returned to his master, who was, well, Crime Master. We don't really know much about who he was, but we do know that he was raised by Crime Master and most likely experimented on to become the insane killing machine that we all know and love. He'd be his right-hand man for the longest time and even be one of the members of the Savage Six. He would get close to Betty Brant posing as a homeless man, only to torment her later, and he would grave rob Flash Thompson's father and turn his corpse into a jack-o'-lantern just to torment him. He just took wicked glee into being this vile character, and he was just fun to watch. Unfortunately, Flash Thompson would leave Earth join the Guardians of the Galaxy, become a Space Knight, which, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And when he did return to Earth, he would immediately lose the symbiote, and the series would start anew, and we would drop his Rogues Gallery. As Eddie Brock would take over as Venom once again. Well, sort of. There was a guy between it, but, well, that's not important. Now, at first, it did look like the JackOLantern that Eddie fought was the same guy, but apparently it wasn't, though he had the exact same face, so I don't know what's up with that. I guess the artist got confused. Now, Jack did eventually come back in the Deadpool Black Panther book, where he got plastic surgery and apparently went to therapy, only to get bored and try to be a supervillain again, only for Wade to kill him off, which, yeah, that's a bummer. The next person to take the JackOLantern mantle would be a man by the name of Owen Ward. And yeah, no, this is when they just made him a jobber again. Owen would show up during Donny Cates' run on Venom, but yeah, there's not much I could say about him. He just became Eddie's punching bag, and though he did get a moment of being cool when he gained magical powers during the storyline of War of Realms, that's kind of about it. The next time we would see JackOLantern, we would actually get a group of people who became JackOLantern, but they're really not that interesting as a group. Now, when it comes to other media, JackOLantern has only had 2 TV appearances. Unfortunately, they're not on great shows. The first one was in Ultimate Spider-Man in a Halloween special, where Spider-Man teamed up with the cast of the Disney Channel show Jessie, no, seriously, against Morgan Le Fay, who turned a security guard into JackOLantern, and yeah, there's really not much to say about him. He's just kind of there to fight them. And then in Marvel Spider-Man 2017, we actually get to see a JackOLantern very akin to Jack show up fighting Spider-Man trying to claim a bounty. He was pretty creepy, and yeah, pretty close to the most interesting version of the character, but yeah, that's not really saying much. He's only in 1 episode, and they had to tone him down. Well, it's Spider-Man the Animated Series. Jason was in that show. Yeah, but he wasn't JackOLantern, he was the Hobgoblin. Though Jason as JackOLantern showed up a lot in video games. First, he was a mini-boss in the 90s Spider-Man game. He was a boss in Spider-Man Unlimited, and was referenced in Marvel Heroes as they used his costume for an alternate costume for the Green Goblin. As for the other JackO'Lanterns, Stephen Levin actually made a cameo in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 2, while his brother showed up as a boss in Marvel's Avengers Alliance. So yeah, that's JackO'Lantern. Really cool design, but as a character, a lot of wasted potential. We did get to see more of what this character could be in Flash Thompson's series. By the end of it, that also was squandered, but who knows? Maybe someday we'll see a proper JackO'Lantern return in comics. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates, and follow me on Blue Sky. Next time, as I said in the Stray Dogs review, we'll be heading back to Fabletown for a creepy war story. Later.